Wheels at this time were used for tools such as construction, milling, and pottery, instead of as transportation. For great periods of human history, humans used feet, pack animals, sleds, and waterways to transport cargo to people. After having invented the wheel, modern militaries are experimenting with quadrupedal robots to traverse perilous terrain. It's obvious that various modes of transportation, flying, swimming, burrowing, and running, are all useful methods of transportation. But one can't help but wonder if there are any animals that use wheels for transportation. Michael Stevens of Vsauce explains that the reason wheels are seldom seen in nature is because wheels are complex, requiring detachment from the body while still remaining attached and having a source of power. This means that if the conditions were appropriate, genetic pressures pushing an animal to develop wheels would fall into a form of deep genetic valley. To put it bluntly, an animal without perfect legs can still crawl or swim or flail about. An animal developing wheels, however, will have great difficulty and likely become extinct before it can develop highly complicated equipment such as wheels. Michael goes on to explain that many animals have wheel-like adaptations, but these behaviors and traits are not true wheels because they do not have an axle going throughout. A link to his videos is in the description, and it's very interesting. Of course, we have many flagella in microorganisms. It has been hypothesized that the reason bacteria are able to evolve the equivalent of a propeller rotor is because originally the flagella was some kind of stinger used in the transportation of proteins, possibly as a weapon or tool used to adhere to surfaces. This stinger, which had the propulsion system to eject the proteins, whether toxic or adhesive, was over time able to divert more and more power to spinning. Certain kinds of bivalves also use a wheel for digestion, however, instead of transportation. They produce a glycoprotein rod, which is spun inside the digestive tract through the help of cilia, which are tiny little hairs. They're not really hairs, but they look like hairs, which coat this rod with mucus. This rod spins and releases digestive enzymes in a roundabout fashion. Intelligent crows use wheels on cars to crack nuts on highways. Ohana M. Major and Yuri Robbers, I hope I am pronouncing these names correctly, of Leiden University Medical Center in the Netherlands, found that many animals in the wild will frequent hamster wheels, including frogs and snails placed there by researchers. Some researchers suggest that running on these wheels provides novel stimuli to animals and is registered as play in the minds of these animals, allowing them to learn and observe their environment. Crows, pigeons, monkeys, dogs, and cats have all been observed routinely using public transportation to get to different places of the city. Of course, a wide variety of animals have been trained to use skateboards, scooters, or bicycles, the most impressive of which are dogs that can navigate cities deftly on skateboards. Earthworms will make use of running wheels in laboratory settings and are used to study the effects of circadian rhythms on animal movement. For those of you that do not know, circadian rhythms are the natural rhythms of the body by which a living being rises, has energy, and falls asleep. It is the reason people get sleepy around a certain time at night, or in the presence of darkness. Turnspit dogs were short, tiny little dogs that were used to turn roasted meat on a spit to ensure even cooking. This was frequent throughout all of history, but it was also popular in antiquity. Meat was frequently placed in front of the hungry dogs to get them to run towards the meat, and yet, even so, these dogs knew when to expect replacement dogs to take their place, and would simply leap out of their wheel when their owners were due to replace them. This shows that these dogs had an innate sense of time. One record also mentions that turnspit dogs in church would run when the preacher quoted the word wheel, in the phrase, "It was then that Ezekiel saw the wheel." Horses were also frequently used to run on treadmills or giant hamster wheel-like devices that would power all kinds of machinery, usually mills or saws. Horses would also be used to power boats. These boats could be powered by the use of treadmills or circular turntables that the horses would walk upon, and were exceptionally sophisticated, being able to easily change direction. In 1850, a horse-powered train car was constructed using a similar treadmill design. This bold machine was called an impulsoria and could travel around 11 miles per hour, faster than a horse could walk. It was expected that this device could outrun a steam-powered locomotive and could easily pull 40 wagons behind it solely with the work of 2 to 4 horses. A more modern spin on the horse-powered car is the Nature Mobile, a horse-powered vehicle invented by, again I apologize if I'm pronouncing the name incorrectly, Abdolgehadi Marhajezi, a brilliant Iranian engineer. The vehicle is controlled by a driver, in a similar way to a motor-driven vehicle, with the horse inside the vehicle on a treadmill. It weighs 660 pounds, or 300 kilograms, or it's of course 1,500 pounds, or 700 kilograms with the horse. The Nature Mobile cruises at about 12 miles per hour, or 20 kilometers per hour, with a top speed of 50 miles per hour, or 80 kilometers per hour. The treadmill also charges batteries, which can take over should the horse tire. The vehicle was invented by this Iranian engineer with the safety and welfare of the animal in mind. But at least one veterinarian has concerns for the horse's well-being while powering the vehicle. In 1875, the French mechanic M. Huret invented the cynosphere, or kynosphere. I think it is kynosphere, which is a dog-powered velocipede, a kind of tricycle that uses dogs inside the wheels of the tricycles to reach the speed of a little over 6 miles per hour. The average human walks at around 3 to 4 miles per hour, so this velocipede was able to go just a little faster than one could walk. An impressive feat considering that the machine itself, without the rider or the dogs, weighed 80 pounds. With a 150-pound rider and 2 50-pound dogs, this means 2 dogs moved in the neighborhood of 330 pounds at 6 miles per hour. The instructions for an 1860s sheep-churned butter churner read, "Unquestionably, a power propelled by sheep is the cheapest and most efficient of any of those in use. A sheep will churn 2 or 3 times a day, even in warm weather, without inconvenience, is much less expensive to keep than a dog, as its food is mostly grass, and it will produce more wool than the ordinary sheep of the flock. Select those of the coarse wool variety, as they will stand the heat well, and are inclined to be mild in disposition. They soon learn to drink buttermilk and grow large and fleshy. Procure a chain 15 or 20 feet long to fasten them. Change their place to feed every day, and when the churning is over in the fall, let them go with the flock, and they are no more trouble until wanted in the spring. A sheep will churn the butter from 20 cows. If more cows are milked, it might be necessary to have 2 sheep. How long they will live I am not able to say, but was acquainted with one that was used in a dairy of from 12 to 15 cows until he was 18 years old, and then he was butchered. A second that was used until he was 17 years old, and a third that was churned from 2 to 3,000 pounds of butter yearly, and is now 13 years old and has every appearance of doing good service for years to come. Developing wheels naturally would take endless billions of years, and would pose many biological challenges. It is interesting to see how just as humans have adapted to technological advancements as a means of overcoming nature, instead of relying upon biological adaptations, so too have animals been used as a tool, and even made use of human-wheeled technology for their own gain. Here is a picture of 2 horses pulling a plane to get under its wings for takeoff. Have a nice day.